section down below, you will find a pinned comment from me listing 3 cases that sound interesting to me. I need your help on which one to cover, so please take a look and vote down below with which one sounds the most interesting to you. This case was one of those from a previous video, and it was highly voted for. Second, if you have not already done so, I would greatly appreciate if you considered subscribing to the channel. And finally, throughout my videos, you will hear me give out what I am calling a hidden gem. A hidden gem. A hidden gem will either be a fact about the case or a fact about myself as it somehow relates to the case. And when I give you that hidden gem, I would like you to comment it down below. And the reason for that is if and when we get enough hidden gem comments on a video, I will make a note of it, and that will basically reward the channel with an additional video the following month. So, if you would like more content from me, pay attention to those hidden gems and comment it when you hear it. That concludes the housekeeping, so let's jump into this haunting case. So to start, I am going to give a brief background on these 2 women. LISANN FROON was 22 years old, and she was approximately 6 feet tall, so quite tall, especially for a lady, and she was described as athletic. She had just graduated from her university studies in applied psychology. She was born on September 24th of 1991 and was described as thoughtful, intelligent, empathetic, and a little bit shy. Just as a fun fact, she loved the music of Coldplay and was also very big on keeping a diary, which she would bring along with her on her trip to Panama. KRIS was 21 years old at the time, and she had just completed her studies in cultural social education. She had the plan to start studying art history once she would come back from the trip to Panama. She had previously done some work in psychiatry, dealing with people who had severe addiction diagnoses. She was born on August 9th of 1992, and she was described as sparkling and extroverted, cheerful, intelligent, spontaneous, and outspoken, with striking red strawberry blonde hair. She loved theater and basically anything artistic. She would enjoy festivals and music from Pearl Jam and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. She had a boyfriend in the Netherlands and would also keep a diary, just like LISANN. The 2 girls knew each other from their time working in the same restaurant, and they both also rented rooms in the same student house. several weeks before her trip to Panama. The young women would plan to not just sightsee around Panama, but they wanted to do something that would immerse themselves in the community and give back in a way. So they coordinated to do volunteer work at a local children's school and to also help them learn Spanish. In Holland, they would gather money from friends and family to buy children's toys for the Panamanian kids that they would help teach on their trip. So 6 months later, the women would have the funds that they needed to embark on this adventure. On March 15th of 2014, KRIS and LISANN would board a plane from Amsterdam to Costa Rica. They would make a stopover in Houston, and then from San Jose, Costa Rica, they would travel by bus to Bocas del Toro, Panama. A boat would then take them to the Panamanian island, Isla Colón, in the Bocas del Toro archipelago. The girls first visited the coast of Panama and had a good time in Bocas del Toro, where they would start to learn some Spanish, enjoyed the beach, the food, the drinks, sightseeing, and a lot of dancing in the evening. They would meet 2 young Dutchmen there, who they would spend a lot of their time with, as well as several other international visitors. From LISANN's diary entry that would later be found, they had a blast in this tropical oasis, and she even said that she could imagine herself living in that spot for the rest of her life. 2 weeks later, on March 29th, they would arrive in Boquete, a city close to the western border of Panama, with around 19,000 inhabitants. They had arranged to be housed with a host family for approximately the next 4 weeks. Unfortunately, though, soon after their arrival to Boquete, they would learn that their plans to volunteer at the children's school had been delayed, so they needed to fill up their time with something else, which is where this infamous hike comes into play. At 11 a.m. on April 1st of 2014, KRIS and LISANN would wave goodbye to their host family and set out for a hike with the family dog. They had posted on Facebook that their plan was to walk around Boquete. They were seen having brunch with 2 young Dutchmen before embarking on a trail that ran near the clouded forests that surrounded the Baru volcano, with the plan to hike the Pianista Trail, which is a well-known path that brings hikers to a summit at around 8 kilometers or 5 miles from Boquete. That evening, the family dog would return home, but without KRIS or LISANN. The family would search the surrounding area around their home, but found no sign of the girls. Giving them next day, KRIS and LISANN were scheduled with a local guide for a private walking tour of Boquete, but they would never show up for their appointment. It was then that their host family realized that something was not right, and they would contact the local authorities. They would start on conducting an aerial search of the forest, as well as a foot search with the help of local residents. The families of both KRIS and LISANN had not heard from them since April 1st. Before that date, the girls had regularly contacted their parents and updated them through calls, WhatsApp messages, text messages, and Skype. So they were very much in communication with their family. KRIS had last sent a text message to her boyfriend, Stefan, saying they were going to hike that Tuesday. KRIS's mother, Roelli, had sent her a message on Wednesday, but it had been left unanswered. KRIS normally would respond to messages quickly, usually within an hour, but now at this point she remained silent. KRIS's father, KREMERS, would say that they sent another message to KRIS on Wednesday evening, which was April 2nd, asking if everything was okay and if she would please contact them just to check in, but again, they heard nothing. KREMERS would describe his daughter and LISANN as responsible, down-to-earth girls who did not easily run into trouble. If they were to deviate from their plans, they would always let their parents know, and described the girls as serious and punctual. By April 6th, they still had not heard anything from the girls, so their parents would board a plane along with detectives from the Netherlands. Together with police and canine units and the Netherlands detectives, they would search the Panamanian forest for a solid 10 days. KRIS and LISANN's parents offered a reward of $30,000 of US dollars, but even this did not bring them any new information that would stick. 10 weeks would go by, and there would be no sign of the girls. Police would begin to slow their search efforts, but it was then that a woman from an indigenous tribe came forward. She would turn over a blue backpack she claimed to have found on the riverbank near her village of Alto Romero in the Boca del Toros region. When police looked inside of the backpack, they would find 2 pairs of sunglasses, LISANN's passport, a water bottle, 2 bras, and $83 in cash. But that wasn't all. This backpack would also contain a camera and both of the girls' cell phones, which at this point, 10 weeks later, felt like an absolute break in the case to the police and family, hoping that their phones or the camera would give insight as to what happened to the girls, or perhaps even trace back to the girls. But at this time was scarce and expectations were overshadowed by the near impossibility for anyone, even experienced jungle dwellers, to survive the rough terrain, endless rain, and remorseless torrents created by the rainy season that was at this time in full swing. Immediately, investigators would look through the phones and cameras, and police were shocked to find out that the phones had remained in service for nearly 10 days after the girls disappeared. Over the course of a 4-day period of time, there had been 77 attempts to contact the police via 112, which was the emergency number in the Netherlands, and 911, the emergency number in Panama. The first 2 calls were to the 112 emergency number and came just hours after KRIS and LISANN set out on their hike. But unfortunately, due to the dense jungle, neither call would connect to emergency dispatch. In fact, out of all 77 calls, only 1 managed to get through, but it would disconnect after only 2 seconds because of the poor service. Police would also discover that on April 6th, there were several attempts, all of which were unsuccessful, to unlock KRIS's phone with an incorrect PIN number. The phone battery had completely died by April 11th. Whoever was trying to access her phone never succeeded, and the phone remained locked until it was in police custody. Next, after going through the phones, police would then look through the camera. The first few photos that they would come across were harmless enough, taken the morning of April 1st, just around the time when KRIS and LISANN had left on their hike. It looked like they were on a trail near the Continental Divide, and there were some nice photos of the girls out enjoying the Panamanian jungle. The last few images in the first set of photos would indicate that the girls had left the Pianista Trail and likely had crossed over to the other side of the Continental Divide. And on that side, there is a network of trails that exist that are not maintained by rangers or guides. These trails in particular are used almost exclusively by tribes of indigenous people living within the forests. This would include a tribe of people in which the woman that brought forth the backpack lived in, and it was her village that was around 12 hours by foot from the Continental Divide and where the backpack had been found. So it's not clear if these girls intended to cross the Continental Divide, but my guess is it was not intentional. The next set of photos that they would find were a little more concerning. They were taken on April 8th in the dead of night, sometime between 1 and 4 a.m. photos would show the girls' belongings spread out on rocks, plastic bags, and candy wrappers, oddly piled mounds of dirt, and a mirror. The most alarming sight, however, was a photo of the back of KRIS's head with blood spilling from her temple. With this information, the police decided that it was time to travel to the area where the backpack had been found and search again in that area. With the help of the indigenous tribe in that area, authorities were able to locate KRIS's clothing folded neatly at the edge of the Rio Culebra, which was River of the Serpent. 2 months later, a pelvic bone and a foot, still protected by its boot, would be found, as well as 2 handfuls of bone fragments. DNA tests would be conducted, and a total of 5 fragmented remains would be successfully identified as belonging to KRIS and LISANN. The foot that was still found in the boot was LISANN's, and the pelvic bone belonged to KRIS. However, the other bone fragments were identified as belonging to approximately 3 other people. Now, the condition of the remains raised more questions than answers. LISANN's bones showed signs of normal decomposition, and they even held a small piece of flesh attached to them. KRIS's bones, though, however, on the other hand, were blindingly white, as though they had been bleached. There were no marks on the bones, and the question also came up of why were there other people's bones mixed in with theirs. So after this discovery, neither the Dutch nor Panamanian forensic teams could really provide a cause of death. The Dutch would feel it was an accident, where the Panamanians admitted that this actually could have been a criminal act. The case was declared a crime against personal integrity by Panama's Attorney General. But when forensic teams failed to actually come to a real conclusion, the case would be closed. In November of 2014, a woman by the name of Betsaida Pidi, who I've kind of gotten mixed messages on from research, she was either a public prosecutor or she was an attorney general. But either way, she publicly declared the women dead of a hiking accident, having been dragged to death in the river. Since then, the deaths of KRIS and LISANN have been blamed on a variety of different things, including kidnapping and rape, cartel hitmen, organ traffickers, and even pygmy cannibals. So it's unclear as to what happened to these young girls. Now, this next part is incredibly interesting to me. So, when all of this was happening, it was really being broadcast throughout the media, as is normal these days. This case tugged on the hearts of so many people globally, by the name of Dick Steffens, who did not have any real involvement in this case, would follow it along from home and would piece together the story from the information that he had available to him and that the news was putting out at the time. He would argue that the Panamanian investigation was not handled correctly and that perhaps KRIS could still be alive. Now, I just want to point out, I tried really hard to find more information about this Dick Steffens fellow, because obviously people are entitled to their opinion, but what I didn't understand was how he could make the claim that perhaps KRIS was alive when these bones had been found. So I'm just gonna say this was something that I came across, but there was very little about it and not much substantiating evidence, so please don't take this as fact. Okay, so before we continue, let's go to our hidden gem. Recently, I have had a travel bug, and recently I went to London, and my dream place, or one of my dream travel destinations, is Amsterdam. So, hidden gem, I would love to travel to Amsterdam. Okay, so two writers by the name of Marcia West and Jorgen Snoren also were determined to find out what exactly had happened, because still, although the Panamanian government or attorney general, public prosecutor, whatever that woman was, declared that the woman died of a hiking accident, it still was not technically proven. Also, side note, do not come after me for my Dutch pronunciation of those names. You guys know that that's never gonna be well done by me, probably, but I try. So, throughout the research, they would stumble across the Amsterdam detective, Dick Steffens, and he would share with them that he believed KRIS could still be alive, and this bit of information absolutely blew them away. And to them, it also affirmed their motive for looking further into their disappearance. Overall, their meeting with Dick Steffens left the two stunned and with more questions than they knew that they had. Marcia and Jorgen would go on to write a book called Lost in the Jungle: The Mysterious Disappearance of Two Dutch Girls in the Panamanian Jungle. In order to write this book, they would speak to behavioral scientists, indigenous guides, witnesses, police officers, lawyers, pathologists, search team members, survival specialists, forensic psychiatrists, and photo specialists. So, although this is a harrowing topic and the reconstruction of the girl's fate would be considered complex, the book is described to be an easy read. Many different accounts and statements would be woven into a storyline that takes the reader from the girls' lives before their Panama trip to their disappearance and beyond. The real breakthrough in the writer's investigation came when they were able to get their hands on the complete forensic reports, the autopsy reports, and were able to enlist the help of the former Panamanian Attorney General / public prosecutor, Betsaida Pidi. Taking in all of that information step by step would bring them closer to the final 11 days in the lives of these two women leading up to their death. An ending that, according to Marcia and Jorgen, had to be accidental. They were quoted saying, "It actually came as a surprise to us too, but our conclusion had to be that it was an accident, and it took us quite some time to get there." End quote. But there had been a turnkey moment, and it had everything to do with the way the girls' belongings and remains were found. Jorgen had called Marcia and told her, quote, "With all that I'm reading now in the police file, it could not be anything else. There was a certain sequence and timing to it that had to be caused by the flash floods typical to the region and season. Those flash floods made staging scenes or strategically placing items impossible." End quote. Now, some people would claim that Betsaida Pidi would fail at her job during the investigation, and others would claim that she botched the investigation altogether in order to protect the Panamanian tourist industry. And according to what I researched, Betsaida Pidi would have the opportunity to set the record straight in this book. When Marcia and Jorgen approached Betsaida for the first time, she was extremely hesitant and wary of who these two women were and why they were so interested in the case. They would ultimately ask if she would be willing to share the full police files with them, to fully look over and analyze instead of just directly interviewing her, and allow her to collaborate on the book if she desired. She would agree to do this and also would tell the women that they were free to ask her any questions that they had. Debunking false information and disproving rumors became part of the core of this book. There was so much of it floating around on the internet and beyond that, according to these women, it created a skewed image of the situation and a false idea of what possible scenarios were. According to Marcia, once increased by such a significant amount of money, the police were inundated by tips, each of which had to be checked out, which would basically lose them valuable time. And according to these writers, this was a hell of a job. Now, I have not read this book, but according to what I've read, most but not all questions surrounding the case are answered in Lost in the Jungle. The authors do admit that a few hours of time remain unaccounted for from the moment the last photo was taken on April 1st to the first emergency call that same day. Around 2 hours and 45 minutes later, those are hours that the authors have been unable to reconstruct with any certainty. The timeline before that is pretty exact, and they feel as though what happened after the first emergency call is also pretty clear, but during that small window of time, something unknown could still have happened. In cases like the disappearance of LISANN, FROON, and KRIS, research can sheer near to the facts and take you close to the truth. But only simple, blunt facts can be absolute and truthful. And as time blurs memories, disinformation is bound to linger. With that context in mind, the authors of Lost in the Jungle hope that the readers feel that they did a thorough job in unraveling this mystery. So, that will conclude the case of the haunting disappearance of LISANN, FROON, and KREMERS in the Panamanian jungle. You know, I am a little stumped on this one myself. I'm not sure if I believe that this one was a crime, or if I believe that it was truly just an accident that may have come from, the floods and the danger of traveling in the jungle where tour guides don't go. That was completely just inhabited by indigenous tribes. What I can't get out of my head is that a foot was still found in a boot. That there was a photo of KRIS's head with the blood in her hair. The fact that there was a photo of their belongings, very systematically laid out. That one set of the bones seemed to be a death of, normal causes, essentially, and that the decomposition process was normal. But whereas the other one appeared as though the bones were completely bleached, like something in my head, it doesn't add up. And it seems, at least, that the girls may have had different experiences in their death. I also really don't understand where that belief of the detective from Amsterdam came from, where he claimed that one of the girls could still be alive. I'm not so sure I believe that when they were able to identify the bones, but again, I said earlier, do not take that as fact. Please let me know what you thought about this case.